Hi there, it's Susan Milner with Florida Future Realty. I'm the broker and owner here, if you're not familiar with who I am. And I want to take a few minutes just to kind of go over what foreclosed properties are and what that may mean to you as the buyer, because there are some differences, and a lot of the real estate agents just aren't familiar with the differences. And I want to preface this by saying I've dealt with a lot of foreclosed properties over the years. Back in the last bust, which was like 2008, 9, 10, 11, tons of foreclosures, a lot of short sales, and then again a couple of years ago for a few years too. There's not as many foreclosures right now, however, there still are foreclosures. And what I find that happens a lot of times are either one, the agents just flat out say to the buyers, I don't deal with foreclosures, or it's not worth it, or whatever. And sometimes that could be true, depending on what you're looking for. But I remember years ago having some buyers, they were looking in the 700, 800 up to $1 million range. And they had been calling listing agents that kind of worked in that market, and even buyer's agents, and asking for help because they wanted to buy a foreclosure. They were, savvy enough to understand what they may be getting into, and no one would help them because those agents said, I don't deal with distressed properties. So they came to me, and at the time I was dealing with $50,000 foreclosures, $100,000 foreclosures, because that's just what the market was then. Of course, you're doing, 100 of those a year, but still you're in a lower end market, but they wanted someone who understood foreclosures. So they came to me, and we ended up getting them a great property, a great bargain, and it ended up, I think it was like, just over $700,000. So anyways, point being, they saved a lot of money, and because they were working with someone who understood the market. And a lot of the agents either just push that business aside or they're misinformed. So I get it a lot. Like, I did Fannie Mae foreclosures for years and years, okay? And I would have a buyer's agent call me or email me and ask me some questions, and they're like, well, I know this and I know that, and I'm like, actually, that's incorrect, and this is the way it is. And of course, in a nice way, because some of the stuff had some truth to it. There was a validity to part of it, or it might have been how it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago when they did that other foreclosure. But keep in mind that times change, documents change, disclosures change, how the process works change. And every time you're looking at a property, you have multiple people or entities that you're dealing with that may do things differently. So most of the listing agents right now that are doing foreclosures are fairly competent. They've been doing it for a while. There's a few of them that are newer that are just kind of learning the procedures, but a lot of them have been doing it a long time. Most of them are very good about putting specific instructions. Here's how to see the property. Here's how to put in an offer. Here's the documents we need, blah, 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 blah. Not every buyer's agent is good about reading and informing themselves on the process. They want somebody else to do the work for them, which is frustrating. So if you're dealing with a buyer's agent who at least has a little familiarity with it, and they're willing to read the paperwork that the listing agent has provided, there you go, you're already a step ahead. I cannot tell you how many times I've been, communicated with, and they hadn't even looked at the paperwork. Like, I had one that, a form that just says how to submit an offer step by step by step by step, and they don't want to take the time to read that. As a buyer's agent, I always go look and see what attachments are in the MLS. Is there a link that says go do something here? Do I need to sign up somewhere? There's all different websites that your agent may need to sign up for. They might not be a member yet, so they might say, oh, it's not worth it, this is complicated. But that's part of the process. If you have a customer that wants to look at these properties, you need to figure it out. So you might already have experience. They might already have experience doing it, or they might be brand new to it. And even if they're brand new to it, that's okay, as long as they're willing to put in the time and effort to research and figure out what it is that's supposed to be done. So there's a lot of differences in buying these foreclosed properties. A lot of times the closings are in another city, sometimes even another state. So we might be sending a local notary to the buyer in order to close. So that may delay them actually getting their keys by a day or so. It depends on, again, their lender and the title company. Do they need original documents back to release keys? Are copies okay? all these kind of sort of things. So there's going to be little variances. But remember, you're dealing with a listing agent who may be great and may not be great. And then they're in turn dealing with a sales rep or an asset manager at the bank or entity that has, foreclosed or, receive this property. And then they have a manager, rules and stuff that they're dealing with. And there are some times where I've went to my asset manager or sales manager and asked for something, like the buyers are asking for a credit or asking us to fix something. And I might have been told no the last 10 times I asked, but then that 11th time, they're like, yeah, we'll go and do it on this one. Or I might be, the last 5 times they were willing to renegotiate, and then I get, maybe somebody's just in a bad mood that day and I submit a request and it's denied. So having that experience is so important because there's different people that we're dealing with at these entities also, and we kind of know, like, not every person that works at that bank is going to handle it the same way. So then I would know, because I've dealt with these people over the years, hey, this person's going to say no, put it back on the market. This person's going to say, yeah, let's make it happen. And if I tell you that, kind of believe me, because I've had them before where I went back and asked for something and they're just like, kill the deal. And sometimes you're like, really? That's so silly. It's over a few $1,000s or something. But sometimes they do that. And having an experienced buyer's agent and listing agent is so important. And if they're not experienced, to listen to them. So if you are trying to tell the buyer's agent, well, that doesn't seem right, and I know that I bought a foreclosure 20 years ago and this is how it was, just kind of have faith that things could have changed. Just because something was even 2 weeks ago or 6 months ago doesn't mean that that's how it's going to be now. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're going to go through these procedures. Another thing to keep in mind is that almost always these are sold as is. And as is usually means that you have an inspection period. So if there is something wrong, you can decide, you know what, there's too much wrong with this property, I don't want it. Or you could attempt to renegotiate a contract, or you buy it as is and you say this is fine. What it doesn't mean is that this house comes with a warranty, or after closing you can come back and ask for something that you missed. That's not how it works. So I've had, for instance, properties that have sold, and then once the person gets in there, they find out, oh, there was a leak, or this doesn't work, or whatever. And I'm like, no, like, they're not going to do anything. You signed in the contract, you signed at closing that you were satisfied with everything on the property. You had your time frame, whether it was 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever, to inspect everything. If you didn't find anything during that time and you went ahead and closed on it, that's done. Like, you cannot go back to. The only way that you could go back to, and this is even regular transactions, or if somebody concealed or hid something from you and it was like fraudulent, like if a seller knew there had been a leak and they try to cover it up and they didn't disclose that to you, you may have some recourse. But on these contracts that these banks are using and stuff, it specifically says, like, you have to check everything yourself. Like, even if they did some repairs, a lot of times you'll see that they go in, they put paint, they put floor, sometimes they put new appliances, little minor things. They don't say that they've repaired or replaced everything and that everything's perfect. They're just saying that they've done these certain things. So for instance, if the walls were dingy looking and stuff, they literally just put a coat of paint on. They didn't go have an inspector look to see if there was any leaks or any issues anywhere. They just did that repair. So it's up to you as the potential buyer to go in and do that research yourself to make sure that you're not getting into anything that you are not prepared for. So a lot of times the buyers are investors or they're handy, so they know that there's going to be little things that are going to come up. This property could have been sitting for years with zero maintenance being done. There could be, a mold growing. There could be a leak that, isn't visible that you're going to need to look for. There's a lot of things that could pop up, and knowing that those things might come up, but hey, I'm getting the house for $20,000 or $50,000 less than the other house is great. But also listen to your agent. If you think, I've got to buy a foreclosure because it's going to be the best deal, sometimes there's other deals out there that, maybe somebody has to relocate, or maybe a divorce, or, a death or something, unfortunate like that, or maybe they're, whatever their motivation is. Maybe if you put in offers on these other properties that somebody has been living in and caring for, you might get a better deal than this foreclosure over here, and then have all these all these unknowns. So that's why it's so important to work with somebody who's been through and worked with, yes, traditional sales to know these sort of things and also has done the distressed properties. We're going to have another pretty big distressed property period here because of what's, happening with the market. So, think about that when you're going to hire a real estate agent. And even if you're a savvy investor and you've done this before, just know that somebody that's doing it on a daily basis is going to have a little more knowledge about this specific facet than you might. Now, you might know more about the construction or the rehab of it or something like that, but how things are actually, the processes and things are working and what they've kind of been seeing in the marketplace, they're going to know more that they're the ones doing on a day-to-day basis. A regular home buyer, you probably buy a house every 5 or 7 years. Listen to your professional that's doing it and make sure they're doing several transactions. Being in the business for X amount of time doesn't necessarily mean anything because they could be doing one transaction a year or two, and that amount of experience might not be great. But if they're doing multiples of it and they have good feedback from customers and stuff, they're probably going to be somebody that can help you in the process. So I hope that kind of helps if you're looking for distressed properties, wherever you're located. Just kind of think about these things when you are choosing someone to help you, and don't think that you don't need the help or that it doesn't matter who you use, because it can really, really make or break a deal for you. So if you are looking in the Southwest Florida market, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Bonita, Naples, Sanibel, Captiva, Pine Island, Lehigh, like all those places our team handles, and they do have the experience to help you. If you're looking at another area, if you want to reach out to me directly, I do have contacts in all over the United States and world, actually, that I can hook you up with somebody that's going to be able to help you. If you come to me and say that you're looking for somebody experienced in XYZ, I'm going to make sure that I refer you to the correct person and not just anybody. I see it a lot of times, referrals just go to somebody they know in that area, and it might not be the best that understands that kind of market. So I hope this has been informative for you. I know it was a little long, but again, these things are super important. So again, Susan Milner, Florida Future Realty, broker and owner here at Florida Future Realty in Cape Coral, Florida. You can visit our website at whycapecoral.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.